Class is now in session. I am Professor Hockey, and today we'll be discussing the game between the Sharks and the Blues, in which the Sharks gave the Blues a bit of a taste of their own medicine by shutting them out 4-0, just like the Blues did to the Sharks about a week earlier. The first period started off rather slow, quite boring actually. Neither team really got any offensive chances generated. Both teams were quite solid defensively, and that was actually a good sign for the San Jose Sharks in this game, as they took that solid defensive play in the first period and brought it into the second as well as the third period. And it was something that I really wanted to see. I wanted to see the Sharks crack down defensively in this game, and that's what they managed to do. And it started with a boring first period. However, in that first period, what they did manage to get was a power play drawn right near the end, I think in the last 20 or so seconds, and that allowed them to get a power play moving on into the second period. And while they didn't actually get a goal generated in those first minute and 45 seconds of the period, or I guess minute and 40 seconds, they did have a ton of zone time, a couple of good chances, and most importantly, they drew a second power play right near the end of it. The second power play unit came on. It wasn't particularly strong, but once the first unit returned to the ice, Erik Karlsson got his first goal as a San Jose Shark, of course, first goal of the year, and that definitely took the monkey off of his back. The pressure was lifted, and all of a sudden Erik Karlsson is now unleashed, or I guess that would be the narrative of him getting his first goal. But it was still very, very nice to see, and he's been pushing for it in these past few games, and so I think now it really is going to have the ability to settle him down and maybe stop taking a few of those lower percentage shots trying to find that goal. Just a couple minutes later, actually, Joe Pavelski added to the total, making it 2-0 to Evander Kane. Within just 4 minutes of each other, these three goals came, and all of a sudden the Sharks held a 3-0 lead. The second period would continue with the San Jose Sharks playing very strong defensive brand of hockey, and the St. Louis Blues still could not get much generated going on in that second period, and so they trailed 3-0 going into the third. However, I'm sure a lot of Sharks fans were quite reserved, quite nervous, even with the 3-0 lead going into the third period, because of the fact that the Sharks have given up many leads thus far in this season. However, the Sharks would not be caught in the same trap as they have been in the 20 previous games, and the only goal that ended up coming in the third period was another Sharks one, which came from Joe Pavelski, who put up his 13th of the year, taking the team lead in goals. In my opinion, this game here by the San Jose Sharks was their most complete game of the season. You know, you look towards some of the other wins, the Islanders and the Buffalo Sabres, 2 in a row. Those were some nice wins, certainly, but they weren't against the best of teams, even though the Blues aren't the best of teams. And even then, I'm not sure how 100% complete they were. The game against the Flames was pointed to a lot of people as being a complete game, but in my opinion, you know, the offense was okay, the defense was okay. It was really just Martin Jones that carried the team to the victory in that one. But I think tonight, the offense was quite good, the defense was spectacular, Aaron Dell was very solid as well, and so at this point, game 21, the Sharks, their first shutout of the season, as well as their most complete game, in my opinion. First, I'd like to talk about Joe Pavelski, the captain, who has been absolutely spectacular since the game last week against the Calgary Flames, where he put up 3 points. He gets another 2 points tonight, and this wasn't looking like it was going to be that great of a season for Joe Pavelski. You know, the first 17 games, he had, 6 or 7 goals at that point, and so it was sort of a slow start to the season, and in a contract year, it looked like Pavelski had lost a step. Maybe he'd end up signing for a much lower contract in the offseason, would even re-sign with the San Jose Sharks, but now all of a sudden, a complete resurgence. 13 goals in 21 games is a very, very good mark. I think that's tied for the best ever start for a goal scorer in San Jose Sharks history with Danny Heatley about a decade ago. And so Pavelski, now all of a sudden his value has shot up, and it'll be very interesting to see what the Sharks do cap-wise by the end of the season. I'll probably have a video about that at some point this year, because it's definitely a very interesting topic to discuss. Next is Erik Karlsson, who continues to have not a mini resurgence, but is finally seeming to adjust to the San Jose Sharks play style. You know, he was good against the Predators, good against the Leafs, and he was good again tonight, and got his first goal, obviously. And so the saying, I guess, kind of goes like, the first good game, that's a coincidence. The second good game in a row, that's just lucky. But the third good game in a row, that's a pattern. And hopefully it is end up being a pattern for Erik Karlsson. He's going to start being the player that the Sharks really expected when they traded for him from the Ottawa Senators in the offseason, because he was their biggest offseason acquisition. He was supposed to take them to the next level, and that hasn't really happened just yet. But in this game, and in particular, it really has started to look like that. You know, he got the goal scoring started. He was very good just in general, both offensively and defensively. and he definitely was a huge part of the Sharks being able to get this 4-0 win. Next is Aaron Dell, and this is an interesting one to discuss. As I said, the Sharks got their first shutout, and it was not from their starting goaltender, Martin Jones. And so the main question going into this next couple of days before the game on Tuesday is, who starts in net in the next game? Do they go back to Martin Jones to try and get him acclimated to playing behind this very good defense now all of a sudden? Because obviously Martin Jones is going to be the goalie down the stretch. I don't subscribe to the theory that Aaron Dell is going to steal the starting spot from Martin Jones. Or do you go with Aaron Dell because he has the hot hand? Obviously, he just put up a shutout the first of the year, and so you'd probably want to get him into another game. And so this is a very interesting decision for Peter DeBoer. Definitely don't envy the position he's in, but as an armchair coach, I will give my opinion, as that is what an armchair coach is best at when he doesn't have to actually affect what the team does. But in my opinion, I would probably start Aaron Dell again. You know, if this game had ended, let's say 4-1 even, I probably would have gone back to Martin Jones. But even though Aaron Dell didn't have to be spectacular tonight, you know, there wasn't some sort of crazy saves that he had to make. The Blues only ended up with a single odd man rush in this game, and I think Tarasenko didn't even end up taking a shot off of it, so no real odd man rush opportunities. The Sharks did a good job cleaning up the rebounds that he gave up because he did have a bit of trouble. But Aaron Dell was still quite solid in this game, and he came up with a few key saves. One in particular, right at the start of the third period, Vlasic gives the puck away to Tarasenko, and it wasn't a perfect shot by Tarasenko by any means, but Dell came up with a very nice save. And, you know, if the Blues had scored there, the game would be 3-1, and with how the Sharks have been playing this season, giving up leads, it definitely could have been demoralizing for the bench, and it could have invigorated the Blues bench. So it was a huge save, even though it wasn't spectacular by any means by Aaron Dell, and therefore I think he should probably get the start on Tuesday, but I will not be angry or anything like that if Martin Jones ends up between the pipes against the Oilers. Finally, just finish with a couple of other notes. Gambrell got into the lineup for his second game of the season. He replaced Chartier, who was sent down to the Barracuda, so I guess a bit of a change for the sake of change after the loss to the Maple Leafs. It didn't make a huge difference, although I did like Gambrell's game. I don't think he was necessarily much better than Chartier, although Chartier wasn't very good against the Leafs. And so with how the Sharks performed tonight, I'm sure Gambrell will be in the next game as well. But I'd like to see some offense come out of that fourth line because they're really the line that has been the odd one out this season for the San Jose Sharks. Speaking of lines, I will talk a bit once again, as I think I'm doing like every single review at this point, just because I'm so in love with this line. I guess it's the second line, at least that's what I wrote down with it. Sorensen, Thornton, and Labanc. Thornton has been so fantastic. Sorensen has been very, very good as well. He's had some crazy chemistry with Joe Thornton, basically out of nowhere. But Kevin Labanc, in particular, not that he's been better than Thornton or Sorensen or anything like that, but Kevin Labanc was a player that most Sharks fans, including myself, were quite down on early on in the season. You know, he was very inconsistent. He wasn't playing particularly well in the top six. He was making a lot of defensive errors. You know, he was giving the puck away a lot. He wasn't really getting much generated at even strength, even though he was decent on the first power play unit that he continues to be on. But Kevin Labanc seemingly has found his spot in the Sharks lineup, playing with Thornton and Sorensen. All of a sudden, he's looking like a much better player in the offensive zone. He's actually looking pretty solid in the defensive zone, whether that's, you know, because Thornton and Sorensen are doing a lot of work, because I really think they've been very, very good in these past few games. But Kevin Labanc has definitely been carrying his own weight as well, and so it's nice to see that he finally has a spot that I think could stay even when Hertl returns to the lineup. Another thing I'd like to talk about is the second power play unit. They only had about a minute or so on the ice, maybe a bit less. I'm not 100% sure on the numbers, but they couldn't enter the zone. And my main complaint about the second power play unit, why is Marc-Edouard Vlasic on any power play unit? You know, I respect his play defensively. He's definitely a fantastic defenseman, but he's not really the best option on the power play. And I understand Hertl is gone, and so you do have to find an option. I don't think any defenseman on the Sharks, besides Burns and Karlsson, are better choices. However, you know, the Sharks haven't run with Suomela on the power play, and it seems as though DeBoer is very resistant to that. I don't know why the Sharks need to have two defensemen on the power play. I don't think you need to defend for shorthanded opportunities unless you're, I guess the Coyotes or something like that, because of all the shorthanded goals that they've scored. But to be honest, you know, Vlasic, so many times he just gets the puck on the blue line, takes a shot with no traffic, ends the pressure. I just haven't really liked him on the power play. And so hopefully, I guess when Hertl's back, hopefully he's the guy who gets kicked out. But even before Hertl comes back, let's say he's not playing on Tuesday, I'd really love to see Suomela get an opportunity on the second power play, because I think it could look it could work out pretty well. Or at least even Marcus Sorensen actually is a player who also hasn't really had any power play time. Maybe he could work out, especially since he would be on a unit with Joe Thornton, a player who has said he's had very good chemistry with this season. But that will do it for this review. The Sharks will be back in action on Tuesday against the Edmonton Oilers. They are currently sit 3-1 on their homestand, currently sit at the top of the Pacific Division. So with all the doom and gloom that has been around the team as of late because of some losses and some performances and some dropped leads, the Sharks are still in a very good position heading into the benchmark known as American Thanksgiving in the NHL. Class dismissed.